Hello and welcome to Stress Less with me, Jess. Today, my special guest is Dr. Jen Self. Hello, Dr. Jen. How are you?
Hello, I am really good. Good to be with you this morning.
I'm so excited you're on here. We were just talking about how great your website is and how much information I was just pulling off from it. So I just love that. So let's tell everybody who you are. You're Dr. Jen Self.
I
You're
am Dr. Jinsel. Boy, this question always stumps me because there are so many things that I do. But here, who I am in the world is I'm a queer person. I'm a genderqueer person and a parent, and a lot of that has informed my life around like being queer has informed my life about what I ended up doing in the world. Um, And so I've been a therapist. I trained as a therapist, and in doing that, I've worked like in higher ed mostly, but also across kind of all industries. And all the way along in my career, I have done anti-oppression work, so mostly anti-racism work. Um, and a lot of it was on the side until the pandemic. And um, during the pandemic, it's interesting. I started and ran the Gender and Sexuality Center at the University of Washington for 17 years. And I was leaving my job, and then the pandemic hit. So many people, I think, have a story similar to that. And so when it hit, I looked for and met a bunch of people who are doing the kind of work I'm doing, and it's just kind of gone from there.
I like that you mentioned that part of things. I feel like obviously there's negative that comes out of everything, but you found the positive out of COVID. And like you said, so many people have experienced that. So it's so cool that you're kind of in this world as it was, and you're going, okay, this is the path I'm going to take with it. So I just love that. So from COVID to where you are now, tell me about that journey and where's that looking at like that for now?
Yeah. So, I'd always wanted to have my own business because I've been doing all this work, all this speaking and training, um, and, and really I took the advantage of COVID. Really was kind of like, okay, well, you don't have a job and you're here in the midst of this thing where you can't go anywhere. And I had connected with an educator who I really love out here, who I'd been following, Erin Jones, and I I saw some of what she was going through after George Floyd was killed, and she's a great leader, and she's someone who educates a lot like me, and also I thought this is a really strong leader who people probably think there are a lot of people around her supporting her. And she does have a good crew around her. But one of the things that happens to leaders, I think, is that we can get really isolated. And so anyway, I reached out to her during that time and just said, hey, I have all these skills. Put them to use, please. I love who you are. I love what you do. Please put these to use if that would help support you. And so she took me up on it, and we started teaching and training together. And then she brought me into a group of people called the Equity Institute, and I got to meet Fernell Miller and Molly Monahan, all these people who I'm working with now. And it's really, it's pretty incredible to be doing anti-racist work in organizations, helping them do strategy through an equity lens. I feel lucky to be doing that work, and also it's really difficult. Yeah.
I want to go back to something you said earlier about how it can be lonely for leaders. And I think that's so important for us to talk about too, because I think sometimes when we think about leaders, we're going, oh my God, they're so successful. They have all the followers. I want to be like them. I want those number of followers. I want that number in my bank account. You want all these things. But when you get to that top, when you start to make those great strides, you start to kind of lose some people in your life, and it's good and bad. And there's a whole other conversation within itself, but that's what it is. It gets really lonely at the top, and there's problems and things you go through on a daily basis that not everybody understands. And to try to find somebody that you can kind of bounce ideas off of or just feelings off of can be really hard. So the fact that you knew that and kind of had that understanding in some way, but also just had the respect for Erin Jones, I think that's so cool that you just reached out, was like, let's just see where this goes, because I think that's so badass that you're just going, who knows? They might not even answer my email. We don't know.
That's right. That's right.
You don't know. And I think a lot of my stories that I talk to people about are those quote unquote little chances of let's just see what this does. And so I think that's, like I said, so badass of you. So just kudos on that part.
Well, thanks. Thank you very much. It really, I think, turned out to be better for me. And I don't know if that's the way that I wanted it. I didn't want that to turn out that way, but Erin and I have become friends and our work together is really good. But I think she has given me so much. So I feel grateful for I feel grateful that I took the chance, and I feel grateful for everything that has come from it.
I love it. So now your company is called Brick 13.
Yes.
And can you explain the name? I got lost in reading this part on your website. Not lost in sense of confused, but I just got dived into it. So can you just explain to the listeners about Brick 13 and why it's called Brick 13?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Well, so I do strategy and I do coaching with leaders who are trying to implement equity. And I was thinking about, I wanted something that didn't really mean anything, because often those are the best names. People remember those names. And so, but I also wanted something that reflected me. And so bricks are a couple of things. One is I just love rocks and bricks, and that's just something I love. But also they're also representative of movements in a lot of ways, like thinking about like brick by brick, building a movement brick by brick, or in revolutions, throwing the bricks. And so I just thought that was a great piece. And then 13 I was born on the 13th, and it's always been a number that I was attracted to. And as a kid, it was like the number. I didn't want any other number when I was playing sports. And I think when I'm looking back on it now, at the time, 13 was like really considered really unlucky. That's sort of shifted a little bit, but at the time it was considered really unlucky. And so people thought it was weird that I would choose that number. But I think what I think now, looking back, is that was kind of the first way that I really understood myself as queer, as a way of marking myself when I couldn't say it, when I couldn't talk about it. I think it was a way of carrying kind of this odd number that put me on the outside, but also made me feel a lot of pride.
I think it's so cool. I think when people come up with names for their company, it's, I want to journal about it and this happened, but there's so much meaning behind yours. And that's why I really wanted to highlight that, because I think it's so cool. Because it is one of the struggles, going back to being a leader, coming up with a name, it's
no kidding.
How parents pick names for their kids, little girl, I'm going, this is going to be my name for my business, and
yes,
so
exactly.
because it has to stand out. You have to make your mark, and people have to be attracted to it. So in some type of way, that's sparking that different light. So cool. And again, I wanted you to really break down that meaning, because there's so many different meanings that I feel anybody could really grasp on, no matter where they're at in their journey. So it's really cool that you really have that broken down.
Thank you.
So people are listening and they're going, okay, do I need this in my life? How do we know that we need Dr. Jen in our life?
Well, I mean, honestly, this is what I think about this country. This country, while I think there are a lot of really great things about it, I think most of those great things were built on the backs of Black and brown people. And so our whole capitalist system was built around slavery and genocide. And that really hasn't changed very much. And people will hear me say that and say, yes, it has. We're not genociding people. We're not, like, there's no slavery. And actually, some of those things are still happening in this country, and not in very direct ways, but in indirect ways. And so, racism is, I think, is probably the biggest rift in our social fabric and our country's fabric. And so if you're wondering why I think we're needed, is because I think we need to heal that. I think we could be like, I think that the ideals that we started on, even though they were not for everybody, those ideals are something to, I think, aspire for freedom, right? That's something to aspire for, but not everybody's been free here. So there's that. And there are a lot of white people out there who are like, I want to do anti-racist work, but they get themselves confused. We get ourselves confused, excuse me. We get ourselves confused. We say things like, I don't know what to do. And that kind of thing is really just about starting with oneself, with one's own identity, and understanding oneself in relationship to power, and then doing the work day in and day out. I started I started earlier, but really as an 18-year-old, I really started like thinking, this is what I'm going to be doing kind of the rest of my life. And all I started with was saying, what could I do that I could do over time? And I just said, well, the one thing I can do is I can be consistent. I can wake up every day and think, I'm going to somehow put anti-racism at the center of what I'm doing. And I was really terrible at it at the very beginning. I knew nothing, and I was awful. And now I'm still, learning. I'm always going to be learning. So
The continuous learning is so important. I think sometimes when we're in our stance, people are like, oh, you're an expert. For sure, I definitely know a lot, but I'm always learning. So I like that you ended with that piece, because that's the part of what makes us who we are and what we do, and why we're great at what we do, is because we're always learning. So when you're having new conversations with somebody, you're learning from that, you're educating yourself. So I think that's so cool. That was your ending piece that really, I think, ties everything together. So thank you for that.
yeah.
So the person that's listening and they're saying, okay, I'm intrigued. This sounds like something I should be doing. What is the best way for them to contact you?
Well, the best way is probably to check out my website. My email's on there, and also there are links on there where you can make an appointment with me. And I consult with people the first time always for free. And the other thing about the way I do my work is that I don't do this work alone. I'm always in collaboration, and always partnering with other people, mostly Black and brown educators and healers. And so we work together. And so if somebody gets me and they have a particular concern that I'm like, well, it wouldn't work well with me by myself. So I think people should just, get a hold of me through my website.
That's great. And I like the fact that you entered in the collaboration piece too, because that's right. Again, going back to your last statement of, we don't know everything, and we're always going to continue learning. So having somebody that you can kind of work with, and maybe they have a different understanding, or maybe you're having a different way of speaking on it too, right? Doesn't mean that you're not saying it correctly, but having someone else also speak on it too is really cool. So thank you for that piece.
You're welcome.
So going into the stress section of our podcast, what is one way that you practice self-care?
Oh my gosh, self-care I'm terrible at self-care. This is really true. I'm terrible.
Another question. Next question.
No, I need to do this one. But I am pretty bad at it. I walk almost every day, which is really critical for me. And I really let myself rest. I let myself do nothing. Which I know is hard for a lot of people. And it's hard for a lot of people in this country, because we're just kind of push to always be doing something. So I really let myself rest. And I love being with my family. That's really my spouse and my child, my little 15-year-old, who is like a wrestler and a derby player and everything else under the sun. And so I really love watching her do all the things that she does.
Oh, I love that. I think the part that I liked about that was that you said you let yourself rest. And so again, not many of us do this. Like you mentioned, all of us are always keep going and keep going and keep going. Can you tell me one benefit of letting yourself rest?
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, we have to rest in order to recuperate our energy, in order to become a whole. I think that what happens is that when we work and we deplete, there's a way that we become fragmented. And I think resting kind of allows me to bring all of my parts and my focus back together, and kind of makes me whole again. So that's how I think about it.
I like that. And obviously I love the part about being with your family because that there's just a different kind of energy pool when you hang out with people that you love, it's definitely different. Even if you're just relaxing, it's different when you hang out with people that you love and care about. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Dr. Jen, before we get into our lightning round, can you
Yes.
tell our listeners one thing you want them to take away from today?
Yeah. If you are thinking about how to, shift and change this world, it starts with yourself. It starts internally, and it starts with the people closest to you. And that sounds, I know that sounds there's folks out there who are gonna be like, that's so trite. And the truth is, if we don't understand ourselves in relationship to other people and power, there's not a way for us to really engage with the systemic problems and in a meaningful way. So we really have to start here and then start with the relationships closest to us.
I couldn't agree with you anymore. One of my speaking topics or my keynote names is change starts with you. So thank you for kudos in that.
You are welcome.
Dr. Jen agrees with me, so now you guys all have to hire her.
There, it's all good. It's all good.
All right, Dr. Jen, let's get into the lightning round. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Let's do this. What was your first job?
Oh, first job was mowing lawn, but then and then working with kids. But my first job out of grad school was creating a family violence advocacy center in a district attorney's office.
Yes. I like that you mentioned, I know it's lightning round, so I'll make this quick, but I like that you mentioned the mowing the lawn because I do this a lot, ask this question, and it's usually babysitting or things like that. But my brother and I, we started a business when we were growing up. He did the lawn and I did the dog picking up poop. I don't know who
Nice.
had the worst end of the stick, but
I know, right? Right.
Dr. Jen, what were you afraid of as a child?
Death. I'm still afraid of death. Death is terrifying. I mean, I was a weird little kid. I was like existential. So,
What was one of your nicknames?
Oh, Jenny. That's called Jenny. That's yeah. Well, let's stick with that.
Through that period, done. Got it. What item is worth spending more money on?
Travel. I think seeing this world is definitely worth spending money on.
Is there anything that you like to collect?
I do. I collect the weirdest things. I like tiny like metal brass objects. So I have like tops and little tiny knives, and it's ridiculous. So yeah.
Clarifying, I'm laughing with you. Yes.
Yeah.
And do you learn by watching or by doing?
Oh wow. Well, I think I'm definitely kinesthetic, like as an athlete. But it's both, right? I could watch the person do it and then I could do it. So, but I think that's more of like a kinesthetic learning.
Awesome. Dr. Jen, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on today. I seriously had a great conversation with you. So I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, I had a great time too. Thank you.